and welcome everyone, particularly Kirsten Johnson. We're delighted to welcome back to DocFest the acclaimed cinematographer and director Kirsten Johnson, whose 2016 film you may have seen, Camerperson, was shortlisted for an Academy Award and won the DocFest Grand Jury Prize that year. Kirsten's worked on a host of prize-winning documentaries, including Citizen4 and Fahrenheit 9/11, and her latest film, the darkly funny and wildly imaginative Dick Johnson is Dead, is now playing on Netflix. Blending fact and fiction in a rather extraordinary way, the film examines Kirsten's own relationship with her father and explores how film can help us all grapple with life's profundity. Kirsten has kindly joined us to discuss the making of the film, as well as looking back a little at her long and celebrated career. And this event is supported by Netflix. Just a couple of notes that live captioning is available. If you would like details on that, do go and have a look in the chat. And we are recording the session. So I think we're going to start now with the trailer for Kirsten's 2016 film, Camerperson. Such an amazing film. Welcome, Kirsten. Thanks for being with us.
Hi, Daisy. I was so excited to talk to you that I jumped on screen way earlier than I was supposed to.
Not as excited as I am to talk to you.
Brought my dad along for the conversation also. He is on a stick with me here.
Hi, Dick. It's so nice to have Dick. I think what everybody would really like to know before we go any further is, how is Dick?
He is both completely himself, but also now in a dementia care facility near my brother's house in DC. And I just went down and visited him last week, and he's, relaxed and enjoying himself. And he literally begged me to take him home. So it's like, I've got my heart on my sweater, basically. It's like constantly being ripped from my body. But, as with so many other people, the pandemic requires new thinking about what we have to do. And so we've done this. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah. And you can be sure he's safe, but I know it must be incredibly hard to walk
Yeah, and I think it's shocking actually to have the experience of like, oh, I'm not supposed to hug him,
Right.
and it was so wonderful to show him the review in the New York Times of the movie, and he was reading it, and he said, everyone wants to get their obituary in the New York Times, but my birthday is in the New York Times. I didn't know they were covering birthdays. So there's these sort of great moments that I'm just like, I want to like hug you and celebrate this with you, but we're doing the best we can.
He's such an incredibly lovable person, I must say. Did he love the film?
He loves the film plural. He loves the film plural. He's seen it so many times. And at this point, he doesn't remember that he's seen it before, except in a very vague way. So it's kind of amazing because he'll be delighted again at scenes and seeing people and, worried about his best friend, Ray, who's sobbing. And he'd be like, how's Ray? Let's call him. So it sort of prompts him to reconnect with people. And he's also very proud of how the film is being received on my behalf. Like he doesn't totally get it that everyone's in love with him, which is totally what's happening.
Well, I'm sure he's proud of your incredible creativity and cleverness, Kirsten, as well.
He does. He's always thought I was clever, even when I didn't do anything.
Did he? Yeah, good for him. So you were raised a Seventh-day Adventist. That fascinated me. Must have been a fairly strict kind of an upbringing. How do you think your love of film developed from that? There's a mention of your father actually taking you to the cinema as a young person.
Yeah. It was, neither of my parents were strict people. They were very earnest people and very kind people, and Seventh-day Adventism was their world, the world that they knew and the world that they had been raised in. But there were lots of rules, and different families did different things, but our family didn't drink and our family didn't dance. And, movies were, you weren't really supposed to go to them. But my dad, he snuck me off to the University of Washington, had a film series from Australia. So he was like, told my mom, I was like going to the university. But of course, we saw The Chant of Jimmy Blacksmith. I saw, Picnic at Hanging Rock. And then she came one night and it was Mad Max, and she got us out of there so fast. But Young Frankenstein was the first movie that my dad took me to in the movie theater, which was a thrilling start.
When do you think your dad started to dance?
He didn't. He danced really for the first time in this movie. When I graduated from college, there was a dance, and he sort of like hopped around for a minute and then said, no, I don't think I should do this. But dancing in slow motion with a young woman who was wearing my mother's, face on a mask, he totally was enjoying himself. He totally got into it.
That was enough of an excuse.
Yes. Yes.
The performance, I guess. Yeah. So let's go back a bit to Camerperson, which won the Grand Jury Prize at Sheffield Doc Fest, amongst many other awards.
I had a very good time at Sheffield Doc Fest, I have to say. It was
Good.
an amazing crowd, an amazing screening. I love being up in that cafe after the screenings. It's a great town to be in.
Was it your first time?
Yes.
Wow. It was my 20th.
Good to come, and yeah.
Amazing. Okay, and not the last, I hope. Tell us about the making of Camerperson, Kirsten. You work with such extraordinary people in your career.
Yeah, and Camerperson emerged. I was trying to make something else. I was trying to make a film set in Afghanistan. And when I had worked on that for several years, I showed it to the young woman who was at the center of it. And she said, "Oh, I can't be in this movie." And I was like, "Excuse me? I've been working on this for 3 years." But what it was this, sort of cusp. And I think those of us who are older in the documentary world, we know what it was like before the internet existed and before cell phones existed. Oh, that was my driver's license and my credit card, my cell phone. And, you could, at the time, promise people, I'm going to film this, and, the people who you are worried about seeing it, your Taliban sympathizing neighbors, will never see it. Mm. But our promises were wrong. We were not able to imagine the future. And in fact, anything that has been filmed cannot be controlled. And so it was right at the edge of that. Like when I started filming, the internet wasn't really happening in Afghanistan. But by the time I'd finished, this young woman knew that it was totally possible for her neighbors to like find the bootleg version of it on YouTube. And she was afraid. And I was so sort of horrified at myself. I was like, how did I not see this coming? Like this is just like the most giant of blind spots. Why did I think I could film this outspoken young woman in Afghanistan and show it? And so it sort of set me back into like, what are my other blind spots? What have I been doing in this career of mine, and what did I not see coming? And so I just started digging back into footage, looking for those, sort of questions and answers. And then I worked with a couple of really talented people, the producer Marilyn Ness and the editor Nils Bangerter, and we built this sort of, accumulation of all of those scenes that I had shot for other directors over the years. And that's what became Camerperson.
And it feels so epic as a result. I mean, it's a wonderful piece of work. I wonder if you could tell us the story about the fact that your mother is in Camerperson, finding that footage, and perhaps how that inspired your latest film.
Yeah. Well, you know something about filming mums, don't you? uh,
No,
your After the Dance film is such an extraordinary film, Daisy. And I think uh, you understand along with me that people have these unspoken taboos about what can be said, what mustn't be said about a person, about a family. And, these things we sort of know in our bones. Um, and my mother was just an extraordinary person who cared a lot about image making and images and her own image. And I knew in some part of me she did not want me to make anything about her.
mm,
And so I never had the courage to film her. But as the Alzheimer's advanced, I was just like, it became a need because I saw that I was losing her. And so I sort of dared just a couple of times, but even in the doing it, I could barely do it.
mm,
And I was sort of, you know, sure that I would never use that footage. Um, but then as I was making Camerperson, it was what I was attempting to speak about. I was attempting to speak about, how do we think we have permission to film other people? What is that? Because we can't know the future. We don't know what it is to be them. And they may sign a piece of paper and say we have permission and then change their minds once the film is made, like the young woman did in Afghanistan. And so I was really afraid of that footage, but I knew how central my mother's Alzheimer's was to me in that period because I was losing my memory with her. And part of making Camerperson was salvaging my own memory.
mm,
Uh, and so when Nels cut together the shot of my mom's ashes and then put my mom alive right after it, like the first time I saw it, I just had this jolt. I was like, oh, my mom's alive. And I really felt it. Like I really felt like my mother had come back to life. And so it's like, right, movies do that.
mm. It's a way, in a way, isn't it, of kind of tricking time, and
Yeah, that's a nice way of saying it. You
particularly
know,
with the film about your dad. I feel like you've sort of cheated death so many times within the film,
well,
and you're almost playing with kind of layers of time.
yeah, well, I'm definitely, I'm playing, I've said we're being defiant to death, but I love your phrase, we're tricking time. And we're both fans of Ziga Vertov's film Man with a Movie Camera, and there's a section in it where he puts a still image of a person next to a moving image of a person. And I think it's the most concrete example for me of the way that cinema tricks time. And for me, he really shows like, oh, like movies can bring people back to life, right? And so, all of these words, these new words, connect to the process of making this film. So, playing, game, tricking time, defying death, all of those things were part of how we conceived of the process of this film. We didn't have the idea of what the film would be, but we knew we wanted to engage in a process.
I think it's incredibly brave what you set out to do and then achieved. But I mean, just even starting to do it must have taken so much courage. How did you first pitch it to Dick?
Well, I basically, to dad, it's easy to say anything to dad. That's the thing that's why I do not wish to lose him as a human. Is that I can basically say anything to him and he'll hear it and ask another question about it, but without any judgment. And in this case, I said to him, Dad, I've thought of this idea. I'm thinking we could kill you over and over again in a movie, like using stunt people, and we just keep doing it over and over again until you really die for real. And he laughed. And he said, like, why would anyone want to watch a movie about me? But he said also, like, that sounds like fun.
Amazing.
And that's who he is, right? Like this sort of game. He's game.
But it was your idea, Kirsten. Let's be clear about that. So that's who you are too. Yeah, yeah.
If he was here, he would say that. We built this idea. We built this idea with many people, and this movie taught us how to make it. Um, but honestly, it is the first time I feel like I've had an idea for a movie. Usually, I want to make a movie about a lot of stuff, but this was definitely an idea. Like, oh, we're gonna kill my dad like multiple times. So it was an idea. It was my idea. I will own it.
Just such brilliant example of this kind of like gallows humor that allows you to deal with a subject that's really challenging and upsetting, and loads of us don't talk about it at all. It's almost like a superstition not to talk about it. But to have so much humor come into it, and this kind of playfulness and representing the imagined and fantasy that you experience around it. Um,
Mm.
I think we're going to have to look at the trailer just in case anyone in our audience hasn't seen it on Netflix yet. You should go and see the whole film on Netflix. But let's have the trailer just to make sure we're all up to speed. So incredible. I mean, it's totally unique, isn't it? I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about how you navigate the kind of tonal shifts between sad and naughty and happy and dangerous. And there's so many amazing emotions when you watch even the trailer.
Uh, I love your language, naughty. I haven't thought of it as in a naughty movie, but so I mean, tone was always our big like worry of like, how are we ever going to figure out the tone of this movie? But you know, I I did trust. I just trusted that this process that we laid out, which was the idea of like it's an iterative process. It's a back and forth process. And it happens between people. It's like between me and dad. And like this back and forth process between you and me in this conversation, like you say words and it makes me think of things. So, you know, you say new words and it's like, oh yeah, we're tricking time. But this way that you used the word imagined, you know, we're all struggling with this, like what do we name things, right? So what do we name a film that is a hybrid of documentary and fiction? For me, it was much more like, okay, there's going to be material that we experience, and then there's going to be material that we imagine. And we're going to bring those two things into confrontation because we experience life and we imagine death. And we can't imagine how we are going to feel when the unexpected things happen. You know, it's like, yeah, there were like a handful of epidemiologists, but most of us did not imagine this would be 2020, right?
Right.
We don't and like you're saying, we don't want to talk about certain things. We, you know, approach the idea of the death of the people we love most. And one of the things that you said made me, you know, think about one of the things I think about with like, what does a camera do? What does bringing a camera into a situation do? And it's not dissimilar from like, I'm looking at the little red button in the corner, like we're recording this, right? So what does recording something do? For me, I believe it brings death into the room and it brings the future into the room. You know, one of us will die first, Daisy, unless we're like, you know, in a car together going off a cliff somewhere. But
That would be
one of
fun.
us, right? One of us will die first, and neither of us know when this will happen.
Mhm.
And it could be that this recording of us is our last moment before we die. And that people we love will come back to this moment because it is recorded, right? And it will be our last words. But we can't
Loved
know
you.
those
We
kinds of things.
loved
But I
you.
think when you I loved you too.
Yeah.
Right? Yes. Say it before people die. That's right.
Mm. So it's not only courageous in terms of the subject matter, but it's also the form is so kind of, it's just so extraordinary. It's not something that I'd ever seen before. Does representing fantasy and the imagined excite you for the future? Is that something
Well,
you'd like to do more of?
oh yeah. Um, we had a lot of fun. Um, but I mean, what I want to say is, Camerperson, I did not recognize it when it emerged, and it taught me things about who I am, the making of it and the watching of it and the watching of it with other people. And I think about this in terms of the history of cinema and how we all know there is so much missing from what has been represented. There are so many lives that have been misrepresented by cinema, and we are all sort of looking to see things that we haven't seen yet. We are all looking for movies that we can't imagine. And I think this is like the thing that's so exciting to me about this moment of my life. I feel like I'm finding a way to discover what is this voice that when I collaborate with fabulous people, that we create something together and it creates this new voice. And just to be very clear to everyone who's watching, like, I did not know what this movie would look like when it would be finished. I did not know its tone. I was not in control of it. And part of why it is what it is that I stopped doing the thing I think we get trained to do, which is to pretend that we know.
Oh my goodness, that's so wise. Yeah, that is so wise. Yeah, yeah, and to be playful and learn as you go along, feel
Yeah,
your way.
feel your way and make terrible mistakes and attempt to come back from them or risk terrible mistakes.
Did
And that's
did
very
you?
scary.
Yeah, did you ever construct a death for Dick that didn't work out?
Oh yeah, many. Almost all of the deaths I wanted to do didn't work out. I really, really wanted to put him on an ice floe and just float him out into the middle of the ocean. um, I really wanted to catch him on fire. I really wanted to push him out of a building. The list goes on.
So there were endless disappointments, things that you couldn't do.
Yeah, and I mean, it was a very real disappointment because he was game. He would have done it, but the dementia was ahead of me. And so
Yes.
that by the time we had the money to make the movie, um, it would have been literally, we would have killed him if we put him out on an ice floe by himself.
Yeah, there is a really telling moment in the film where we hear you say, "I think we're going to have to stop doing this now." I'm probably paraphrasing, but I
Mhm.
really noticed it. I thought, "Oh, this is we're at another stage." Something had shocked him and upset him, um,
Yeah.
and that you were having to remind him of, what you were actually doing every few minutes. I think, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, I would say we placed that me saying that in the film, but I was asking myself that question from the moment I had this idea all the way to the end of this film.
Mhm.
Um, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? Was an active question the entire time.
Yeah, I can imagine. Can we talk about your relationship as daughter and filmmaker with
Sure.
subject and father then? I
Yeah.
mean, did you ever feel like this is the only dad you could ever do this with and that he's mine, or did you feel that, you were able to push him ethically perhaps because you already had a good relationship? I don't know. That's
I
not
mean,
an either or.
I mean, the reason I needed to do this was not to make a movie. It was because my dad was disappearing.
Yeah.
And so it is a desperate act. I'm trying to hold him together. I'm trying to keep him from dying. I want him to be immortal. And one of the things that happened with my mother was that the Alzheimer's obliterated my memory of her. So I can remember what my mom was like when she had Alzheimer's. It's very difficult for me to remember what she was like without it. And so I feel like, so, it robbed me of her.
Mm.
Um, she comes back to me once in a while in dreams, like 3 times she's come back, like fully her old self.
Mm.
And so I wanted this movie to create a hallucination of my father when my memory fails me in the future. Uh, and, you know, I
Mm.
know that you are in this very crystalline, fragile moment in your own life, Daisy, because your father died recently. And I would imagine, because it is so recent, that he feels very vivid to you. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really struck by the idea that you needed to have your father before he got more ill, I guess, or
Yeah.
lost more of his own memory. I possibly didn't have mine until it was a bit too late, maybe, I think, with me. So it's a different experience. But I mean, my main experience of your film, having lost my father, was the huge courage that you showed
Mm.
confront the confront the end of his life with him in such a fun way. I was really like amazed by that. I was unable to film my father.
I mean, I was unable to film my mother, which is part of why I was able to film my father. And I think, this goes back to the thing that we were saying about permission, right? In something in the relationship with your father allowed certain things and didn't allow other things, right? And we're all negotiating this with each other, with the people that we love. What's okay, what's not okay. And then, we feel something and express something, and we've gone over someone's limit. And then we all have to sort of renegotiate what is the relationship. And I think, trust is this such an amazing force, and you can work and work and work to earn trust, but you can like lose trust in a second. And the vulnerability of that in human relationships I find so powerful. And my father trusted me with his life, his entire life, my entire life. But I put that at risk in the making of this film. And just even on the level of like, I promised him I'd make a movie that had a few laughs in it, and it's hard to make comedy. And like for a while we were like, this movie is not funny.
Oh, it
And
is funny.
but like that kind of thing, like that, those stakes were very real for me. We have to make something, like there has to be one laugh in this movie. I feel like Camerperson has like one laugh, maybe like 1.5 laughs in it. I've worked on very serious things, and so this was a big stretch for me, but I was determined. We're not letting this man down, basically.
It's really funny, and it's not forced funny. It's
You're
easy,
just saying
relaxed, funny.
that.
No, I mean it. Everyone agrees with me, so you just can't see
Hmm.
their faces right now.
Yeah.
um, so I wonder what your family made of you doing it, and how, because the way that we talk to each other as filmmakers is always a little bit different from the way that we talk to our families. And when you're deciding to share your father with everyone, maybe they feel that they have to share him too. And I just wonder how
Mm,
you kind of
mm,
negotiated
yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's no way that my mother would have let us make this movie. um,
Yeah.
she'd be very proud though, because like, it's been reviewed in the National Seventh-day Adventist magazine, and they're actually teaching it at Loma Linda University in the palliative care department, which I'm just like, I can't believe it. It's so exciting to me. Um,
Mm.
but my mother, she cared about loyalty and respect and dignity.
Mhm.
And I care about all of those things too. And also, I'm really interested in how do we how do we engage with our own blind spots? How do we face the things that frighten us most? How do we deal with our denial about who we are and what our country is and what our complicity is, right? I could go on. How do we deal with our own shame? All those things, right? And my dad is comfortable engaging with all of those questions. So that's what made this film possible. So you're like, he's the only dad I got, but that he is game and comfortable with those kinds of things is how this was possible. And then he had to trust me because he couldn't always keep track of what we were doing because of the dementia.
Yeah.
And so I was holding the responsibility of his trust.
Yeah, well, you obviously, allowed him to trust you while retaining his dignity in a really beautiful way.
Well, some of the most joyful parts of the movie for me involved, as we got further along, the wonderful producers I was working with, Maureen Ryan and Katie Chevigny and Marilyn Ness, kept saying, "Do we have to keep killing him? Like, everybody knows he's gonna die. Like, come on, can we give it, can it be a little more comfortable for him?" And so Heaven was born, late in the making of the movie, and then because my dad's dementia had accelerated, we were like, oh, how can we enter present time? How can we trick time? And it's like, oh, slow motion. We can trick time with slow motion. And suddenly my father, who had not played the clarinet in years, was in a tuxedo and swinging with his clarinet. Maybe we should ask Nigel to show the clip of the dance scene at this time. Does that make sense?
Great. It makes me so happy to think, Kirsten, that became a part of your dad's experience, that you made it real.
Experience. My father hadn't danced. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, he did things that he's never been able to do before. He could dance. He played the clarinet. Got to dance with my mother, who didn't dance.
Subversive.
So yeah. It expanded possibility, which I think is, yeah, and that's like the definition of what cinema can do for us. It expands our own imaginations about ourselves, about each other, right? And we imagine things we couldn't have imagined about ourselves. I couldn't have imagined I would have made this movie because I couldn't have imagined my dad would get dementia too. Like,
Apologies,
getting dementia over this movie in a heartbeat. But say it again.
I lost a bit of sound there, Kirsten. I hope that wasn't everyone's experience. Apologies if it was. I would really love to ask you what you're going to do next, because it's just so exciting to see something so original and unusual. And I'm obviously hoping that it's going to be even more extraordinary next time. Or are you going to go back to observational or something a bit more conventional?
Why go back?
No.
Why go back? Why go back? No. I am Camerperson empowered me. This empowers me. I believe in the process that we created, which is a process where we committed to sort of recognizing everyone who's a part of it. And I do this thing now, right? Which is ask people, ask people about their experience and what they think about what we're doing, and leave the time in the process for there to be conversation, so that we are asking shared questions together. So that's definitely gonna be in the process. I'm also like, oh, it's so fun to have made a movie that people enjoy and that is funny and brings joy. So I'm definitely doing that. But I am taking on, the thing I'm taking on is like of a scale that is unexpected to me. And I think it confronts some of the big monsters of our future. and I'm doing it with my fellow camera people. So yeah, I am working on something, and hopefully there will be dance numbers.
Wow. And that's
So
what you'll tell us?
I'm not going back. I mean, right now it's called Camera People of the 21st Century, but I'm telling you, we are not going backwards. We are hurtling, dancing, hugging into the future.
That is so exciting. It sounds
Uh,
wonderful. Kirsten, I know you like to ask your audience what their feelings about their own death might be, how they might imagine their own
yeah,
death. Should we do that? And I'll come over
yeah,
to some.
let's do it. I want to know how people wish to die, including you, Daisy. How do you wish to die?
I think mine is really boring, Kirsten. I want it to be exciting to please you and impress you, but I imagine I would like to be in complete peace in a forest, probably. It'd be
Oh,
nice to be loved, wouldn't it?
oh, it is nice. It is
That's
nice to be
it.
loved. It is nice to be loved, and you impress me and please me with your answer. Um,
Not very exciting.
who needs exciting all the time? We were
I
filming with
bet our audience have some good ones.
we were filming with Terry Riley. Sam Green was directing A Thousand Thoughts, and Terry Riley, the great experimental musician, said to me, "Do you want to see where I want to die?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Come on!" And we went down the hill and laid on the grass in this giant forest and looked up at these giant trees. And he's like, "Wouldn't this be a great place to die?" And I was like, "Yeah."
That
So
does sound-
maybe
yeah.
you could lie down with Terry Riley in the grass anytime, Daisy.
Oh,
Um, someone has
I'm going
got
to
some good
come
ones
to the
coming in.
Q&A then, Kirsten, and we'll open up to audience questions now. So
Yeah,
we have a nice one here. Did the film feel like a race against time?
yeah, and I'd lost it before I started. I absolutely, the thing that Daisy you said about your dad, it's like I started too late. I think this is the feeling that all of us have. Um, And, I think so many of us just feel like we're running, 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 running. I mean, the extraordinary Nanfu Wang, who has made One Child Nation and Hooligan Sparrow, and is working on a film about the virus, her father died at age 33. And she said, that she's lived her young life with the feeling of like, I'm not going to live past 33. And that's part of why she makes at the speed that she makes. But we're all different. And some of us, takes a really long time to find our own voices. And I've directed other films before, but Camerperson is really the first film in my voice, or the above, maybe the short film that I finished right before Camerperson. Um, and I think many of us, if it takes us a long time to find our voice because there hasn't been support for it, or no one's letting us into the system, or we have shame about who we are or what our voice is, or we're afraid of betraying people, there's so many reasons that it's hard to find our voice and it takes time. And then we start to feel like I failed already before I've even started. Um, so I did feel while making this film like, oh, I can't believe it. Like we didn't get him. Like my dad's already gone. I felt that way through the whole making of the film. And then it wasn't until November with the rough cut, I just started crying. I was like, oh, we got him. He's in it. But we just had fragments of him that didn't add up for a really long time, and it felt like I had started it all too late.
Problem is you don't know when the end is, do you? No one ever knows. So
No,
you
no.
just got to start, and you did.
Yeah, and I really encourage anyone and everyone who's like worried about someone dying in this time, which is like literally almost all of us, just
Yeah.
like, find a way to engage with that person. And
Mm.
even if that person is dead already, there is someone who still knows that person who is alive.
Mm.
And you can talk to that person about the dead person.
That is such a great point, and it makes me think about what you were saying earlier about all the stories that haven't been told and the kind of gaps in our history, especially the Black history or queer history, or those stories that aren't ever mainstream. and aren't recorded, and we can go back and reimagine them and fill the gap.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, you know, it's both understanding our histories, the histories that haven't been buried, right? The histories that got told in the opposite way, that got told by the people who won the wars and not the people who lost them. But it takes work, you know, and I think it's hard when you don't have the resources and the systems are against you and your history got buried. It's really hard. So, I mean, I think I have great respect for the obstacles we all face trying to, you know, unbury the buried.
Mm.
But you know, it's so interesting, these like metaphors about death, like I discover more and more of them as I, you know, do these conversations. And it's like, oh, what in ourselves has been buried and how do we like let it
Right.
speak and come out, right?
Right.
Yeah, it is work that feels really risky and is, but also when you do it with other people, it's amazing, like the solidarity and the generosity, and you get to keep your own life, like you have your own privacy. Like that was sort of the reveal to me with making Camerperson. And I'm curious about this with you, Daisy, like making a personal film, like when it gets out into the world, it belongs to everyone, and that's sort of like a joyful thing, and it doesn't take away from your own privacy. It sort of adds to it in some strange way. I don't know, did you experience it that way?
I think in my case it was very much a case of owning the story and not having anyone take it off us, because as you said, it wasn't allowed. But we're not talking about my film. Let's
Oh,
come back to the audience
have to
questions.
say, I'm so into talking to the British journalists and the English. Like
Nice try.
you all do not like to talk about yourselves. I'm like being my like full blown
Uh,
American self.
we have another audience question, Kirsten. Love,
Do
loved
deflect.
the film.
Do deflect, baby.
Loved the film, Kirsten, especially the use of music. Could you talk a little bit about the music and who you worked
Yeah.
with this?
Yeah, the music is really special to us. Nels Bangerter had discovered this Japanese duo called Sisyphus when we were making Camerperson, and he sort of encouraged me to use this piece of music, and he didn't know if the band still existed or you know who the people were, and then we found them, and we licensed the material, and when we were making this, we started thinking about this woman Hitomi, who plays, you know, who's one of the, it's Hitomi and Hiromi, and Hitomi has filed down all the pipes on this great organ, and she does this really tonally unexpected music, and Nels was saying, wouldn't it be great, like if we had Sisyphus music in this, and I was like, we can call Hitomi. And so I did this incredible Skype with Hitomi, who speaks a little bit of English, and her husband, who's American, and talked about the film. And she was like, yes, I would like to work on this. And so we used existent music, and then she composed new pieces for the film. And it was sort of this back and forth. And um, I just think the music is extraordinary. Um, and then we worked also with an amazing music supervisor, Doug Burnham, who helped us find some incredible organ music from heaven, and this incredible song at the end of the movie, "Soon I Will Be Gone with from the Troubles of This World," whose composer had died and who's sort of lost and forgotten, and we're trying to learn more about him and sort of wake him up. Yeah.
Amazing. You're keeping everyone alive, Kirsten, including me.
Yeah, bringing people back from the dead. Why not?
Someone has asked, we don't have many comments about how people would like to die, although someone has put, my husband here says he wants
Nice.
to die old but in a young way, e.g. coke and sex at 98. Well, we can't condone that,
Nice.
can we, Kirsten?
Well, I hopefully with her. um, there's like, I think there's like, I love the question because it's like, how do you wish to die? Like, well, maybe some of us get to die as we wish, but very few of us. So
Mm,
I do love the answers that involve lots of pleasure. And, I see someone here has asked me, how would I like to go? And I reserve the right to keep changing my mind about it. And I certainly, I have this like, fantasy of a way that makes you like laugh out loud when you hear how it happened. Something so absurd and like mad that you'd be like, like, sort of spit your iced coffee out. Like Isadora Duncan strangling herself, driving her sports car, or, something like that. But in having the conversations with people, it's just like, yeah, there is something powerful. Like, yeah, I'd like to have my loved ones around me. Like,
mm,
I don't care about knowing that it's coming. I don't care about it being painful. Like, I care about like having people who still love me and want to be with me there through whatever it is.
mhm. Although I did like your going off the cliff in a car thing. That was good too.
Okay, you want to come? We could do that.
Let's do it. Let's do it. First one to start like not having fun, the other one
Right.
goes to.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you're on. You're on. Did you ever talk to your dad about which would be his choice of all the amazing scenarios?
He always he was saying, I'd like to be shot by a jealous husband, was his big line.
That is fantastic. Can we arrange that?
Oh, it could still happen.
Could it?
He is holding hands with the lady in the dementia care facility.
Wow. Well, we saw what a flirt he was, didn't we? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that hadn't gone away. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kirsten. That was an absolutely fascinating conversation. I hope everyone enjoyed it as much as I did.
Daisy, one of these days I'm going to talk to you and I'm going to get you to tell me a little bit more about yourself. But
Never gonna happen.
I am like, all I want to know more is about like British repression and death. Like, you have to stay with me one more second to be like, what is up with like British repression and death? Like what are
Yeah,
the sort, like, what's your speculation about it?
you're absolutely right to ask that. I mean, it's funny because when my aunt's mother, who I didn't know, died on Christmas Eve when I was over in Ireland, and
Mm.
she was buried on Boxing Day, St. Stephen's
Mm.
Day there. So not only did people not take Christmas Day off in planning the funeral, but
Yeah.
it was literally 36 hours between, and somehow
Wow.
that felt better to me. Whereas in Britain, what we do is, people are kind of frozen for 3 weeks, or I find that really difficult. I think that somehow has a relationship with our emotional thinking about death. It's like we
Mhm.
freeze it. We don't deal with it. We don't confront it. We don't see bodies very much, do we? No one
Mhm.
wants to talk about it. Do you
And
find
with
it
with the
massively more
Irish
repressed
with the
here?
Irish grandmother, did her body stay around in those days? Was her
Oh
body
yeah,
there?
everyone came to see the body because there's no need to freeze it, so
Yeah. Yeah.
or embalm it. So she was lying in her coffin in the middle of the room, and everybody would go and talk to her.
Oh, amazing.
Do you like
Amazing. So
that?
you did that. You got to speak to her.
Yeah, but I mean that's not. I wasn't close with her, but I liked that it was so intimate with her physically,
Yeah.
and you know, in the time that passed since she died.
Yeah.
Do you think
Well,
that's
I mean, I'm just fascinated by it because I do respect and understand there are things we don't wish to see because they are terribly painful, and certainly seeing other people's dead bodies we don't wish to see. I was so moved with the documentary Return to Homes, um, which was, showed people in Syria unburying bodies of like fallen buildings and unburying the bodies. And it was so powerful, like the way that both the camera people and the people handling the bodies, just like you could see that it was their friends. It was the bodies of their friends, and the way it was filmed, you could see the love towards the dead bodies. And, I think that's something we haven't seen very much of. We mostly see dead bodies filmed by strangers. And this is the way in which and often we see dead bodies filmed by people who have killed those people,
Right.
right? So talk about the winner telling the story,
The
right?
snuff movie.
Yeah. And I say that, around the sort of the racist violence that exists. And then, now with the cell phones that we're documenting these moments of racist violence, like we're seeing it, we're starting to see images from the point of view of love, but we have seen many images from the point of view of violence and distance. So, that's what I'm really interested in, and what I was interested in making this film was like, how do we face the fear with love? So,
And that's
maybe
absolutely
that's a
what
good
you've
place to
done.
wrap
Such a
it.
great place to end. It's absolutely what you've done.
Thank you,
So
Daisy.
everybody, face the fear and face the death with love.
Yeah, baby.
Don't
And a
think
little fun.
Kirsten, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to go and watch again with what you've said in my head.
Oh, such a joy, Daisy. I will see you at the edge of a cliff in a convertible one of these days.
Dreamy. Thank you, Sheffield Doc Fest.